Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So, welcome everyone for another reading. We're not outside, in case you didn't notice.
Cold.
Okay, where are we?
Canto 4, Chapter 9, Text 15.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Text 15. My Lord, by your unbroken transcendental glance, you are the supreme witness of all stages of intellectual activities. You are eternally liberated. Your existence is situated in pure goodness, and you are existent in the Supersoul without change. You are the original personality of Godhead, full of 6 opulences, and you are eternally the master of the 3 modes of material nature. Thus you are always different from the ordinary living entities. As Lord Vishnu, you maintain all the affairs of the entire universe, and yet you stand aloof, and are the enjoyer of the results of all sacrifices. Purport. An atheistic argument against the supremacy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead states that if God, the Supreme Person, appears and disappears and sleeps and awakens, then what is the difference between God and the living entity? Dhruva Maharaj is carefully distinguishing the existence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead from that of the living entities. He points out the following differences. The Lord is eternally liberated. Whenever he appears, even within this material world, he is never entangled by the 3 modes of material nature. He is known therefore as Tri Adisha, the master of the 3 modes of material nature. In Bhagavad Gita, chapter 7, text 14, it is said, Devi he esha gunamayi mama maya duratraya. The living entities are all entangled in the 3 modes of material nature. The external energy of the Lord is very strong, but the Lord, as the master of the 3 modes of material nature, is ever liberated from the action and reaction of those modes. He therefore is uncontaminated, as stated in the Ishopanishad. The contamination of the material world does not affect the Supreme Godhead. Krishna therefore says in the Bhagavad Gita that those who are rascals and fools think of him as an ordinary human being, not knowing his Parambhavam. Parambhavam refers to his being always transcendentally situated. Material contamination cannot affect him. Alright.
Guess it's self-explanatory. Another difference between the Lord and the living entity is that a living entity is always in darkness. Even though he may be situated in the mode of goodness, there are still so many things which are unknown to him. But it is not the same for the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He knows past, present, and future, and everything that is happening in everyone's heart. Bhagavad Gita confirms this. Veda hum samatitani. The Lord is not part of the soul. He is the unchangeable Supreme Soul, and the living entities are his parts and parcels. The living entity is forced to appear in this material world under the direction of Devi Maya. But when the Lord appears, he comes by his own internal potency, Atma Maya. Besides that, a living entity is within the time of past, present, and future. His life has a beginning, a birth, and in the conditioned state, his life ends with death. But the Lord is Adipurush, the original person. In the Brahma Samhita, Lord Brahma offers his respect to the Adipurush, Govinda, the original person who has no beginning, whereas the creation of this material world has a beginning. The Vedanta says, Janmadyasya yataha. Everything is born from the Supreme, but the Supreme has no birth. He has all the 6 opulences in full and beyond comparison. He is the master of material nature. His intelligence is not broken under any circumstances, and he stands aloof, although he is the maintainer of the whole creation. As stated in the Vedas, Katha Upanishad 2.2.13, Nityo Nityanam Chaitanas Chaitananam. The Lord is the supreme maintainer. Living entities are meant to serve him by offering sacrifices, for he is the rightful enjoyer of the results of all sacrifices. Therefore, everyone should engage himself in the devotional service of the Lord with his life, his riches, his intelligence, and his words. This is the original constitutional position of the living entities. One should never compare the sleeping of an ordinary living entity to the sleeping of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the causal ocean. There is no stage at which the living entity can compare to the Supreme Person. The Mayavadi philosophers, being unable to adjust to all this, come to the conclusion of impersonalism or voidism. Interesting. Just all of that paragraph, and then the last sentence kind of, drops it. That the Mayavadis who can't accept that God is greater than them, just says, oh, well, he must be void then. Because I can merge into, I can be nothing, but I can't be great. I can't be as great as the Lord, but I can be nothing. I can become one with the Lord in some ways. It's like kind of a cop-out, I guess you could say.
Text 16. My dear Lord, in your impersonal manifestation of Brahman, there are always two opposing elements, knowledge and ignorance. Your multi-energies are continually manifest, but the impersonal Brahman, which is undivided, original, changeless, unlimited and blissful, is the cause of the material manifestations. Because you are the same impersonal Brahman, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Purport. In the Brahma Samhita, it is said that the unlimited impersonal Brahman is the effulgence of the transcendental body of Govinda. In that unlimited effulgent aura of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there are innumerable universes with innumerable planets of different categories. Although the Supreme Person is the original cause of all causes, his impersonal effulgence, known as Brahman, is the immediate cause of the material manifestation. Dhruva Maharaj therefore offered his respectful obeisances unto the impersonal feature of the Lord. One who realizes this impersonal feature can enjoy the unchangeable Brahmananda, described here as spiritual bliss. So Prabhupada is saying here, one who realizes this impersonal feature can enjoy spiritual bliss, can enjoy unchangeable spiritual bliss. So you can get spiritual bliss by realizing the rays, as it were.
That's interesting, because often it's explained Satchit and Ananda only comes through personal realization, and that's because bliss only comes in personal relationship or interactivity. So Brahmananda, the impersonal feature, can enjoy the unchangeable Brahmananda. And we heard that described before, but and it was described in a slightly different way, this principle of Brahmananda. Anyway, Prabhupada says it here, so. Yeah, I guess because it says, if you understand the unlimited impersonal Brahman is the effulgence of the transcendental body of Govinda, then you can attain some spiritual bliss, but okay. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur describes that this impersonal feature or Brahman manifestation of the Supreme Lord is meant for persons who are essentially very advanced, but still not able to understand the personal features or variegatedness of the spiritual world. Such devotees are known as Jnana Mishra Bhaktas, or devotees whose devotional service is mixed with empiric knowledge, because the impersonal Brahman realization is a partial understanding of the absolute truth. Dhruva Maharaj offers his respectful obeisances. Yeah, so the difference that a devotee, you can see a Jnana Mishra Bhakta. Mishra means mixed, and it's bhakti mixed with Gyan, which means knowledge of the impersonalistic approach or impersonal liberation. But a devotee, a bhakta who's like that, he still understands that Krishna is the source, but his bhakti, and that ultimately everything is coming from Krishna, the impersonal, the Paramatma, and Bhagavan, but somehow he's still mixing his bhakti, his pure bhakti, with some ideas of this impersonalism.
Next paragraph, it is said that this impersonal Brahman is a distinct realization of the absolute truth. Although apparently Brahman seems to be devoid of energy, factually it has different energies, working under the headings of knowledge and ignorance. On account of these different energies, there is continually a manifestation of vidya and avidya. Vidya and avidya are very nicely described in Ishopanishad. It is said there that sometimes due to avidya, or poor fund of knowledge, one accepts the absolute truth as ultimately impersonal. But in fact, the impersonal and personal realizations develop in proportion to the development of devotional service. The more we develop our devotional service, the more closely we approach the absolute truth, which in the beginning, when we realize the absolute truth from a distant place, is manifest as impersonal. That's interesting. The more we develop our devotional service, the more closely we approach the absolute truth. And it says here, in the beginning, it's manifest as impersonal. Because, say, for those of us who are brought up in the personalist view, it's not.
Okay. Was that a statement, a question, or?
It's a mix of both.
Okay. So it says, Vidya and avidya are very nicely described in Ishopanishad. It is said that sometimes due to avidya, poor fund of knowledge, one accepts. So if one has a poor fund of knowledge, one accepts the absolute truth as ultimately impersonal. But if you're brought up with a good fund of knowledge, means if you're brought up in a way that's like personal, then theoretically you don't. But I was just speaking, I met some young man today, and he was saying that he was brought up very religious, but as he started going to school and was exposed to science, then in his adolescence he became more of an atheist, because he thought science explains everything and that God is just like some funny story. But then as life progressed and he went through some challenges in young adulthood, he started reaching out to religion or spirituality again, because that was where he could find solace. So I guess even you might be brought up a certain way, but you might go through a phase of thinking, mistaking knowledge, vidya, mistaking avidya, which is ignorance, for knowledge, which is what happens often with some aspects of science. So, but anyway, the point being that we think that the absolute truth initially from a distant place, because the further away we are from something, the less of the detail we can see. So I was thinking how Prabhupada says from a distance, we think the sun is just like, we only see the rays, the impersonal rays, so we just see the light, that's it. Then we start to realize there's a planet. Then as we get closer, we realize that there is a proprietor or a lord of the planet, a person who's governing over that planet. So then we get the personal feature. And the same, I guess, if you see some hills from a big distance, they just look like hills, but as you get closer, it becomes more. The closer you get to anyone or anything, it's personal.
True.
And even a person from a distance, you can be like, oh, anyway, he looks like this, he's like that, But the closer you get to them, the more you get to know them, the more that personal aspect.
Yeah, and even we find that when we meet, or not necessarily meet people, when we actually sit down to talk to devotees, that we may not have sat down and just had some non-motivated conversation. Motivated meaning we have a relationship because of service, or we just see them, you go to the same temple, and you think, oh yeah, they're all right, aren't they? Like when you actually talk and personally, closely just talk.
We connect.
Yeah.
Deepen the connection.
Whereas it can be very impersonal, even if you're this close physically, but it can be impersonal.
Yeah, relationships are like that. People in general who are under the influence of avidya, shakti, or maya have neither knowledge nor devotion. But when a person who is a little advanced and is therefore called a jnani advances even more, he is in the category of a jnana mishra bhakta, or a devotee whose love is mixed with empiric knowledge. When he is still further advanced, he can realize that the Absolute Truth is a person with multi-energies. An advanced devotee can understand the Lord and his creative energy. As soon as one accepts the creative energy of the Absolute Truth, the six opulences of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are also understood. Devotees who are still further advanced in full knowledge can understand the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. Only on that platform can one fully enjoy transcendental bliss. An example is given in this connection by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur of a person proceeding towards a destination. Here it is. As he approaches, he sees the destination from a distant place, just as we see a city from a distance. At that time, he simply understands that the city is situated at a distance. When he comes still nearer, however, he sees the domes and the flags. But as soon as he enters the city, he sees various paths, gardens, lakes, marketplaces with shops and persons buying. He sees varieties of cinema houses, and he sees dancing and jubilation. When a person actually enters the city and personally sees the activities of the city, he becomes satisfied. Well, there you go. So similar to what I was saying. Prabhupada gives that example in other places. Okay, so maybe we should conclude there. So with that, we'll conclude. Thank you very much for tuning in again. Please remember to like, subscribe,
share.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.